Hey everyone, it's Shoutout today with a video about Neo Tilted for my Learn the Landing series as well as the viewer who requested it. So let's get started. As for drop spots, many of the buildings in Tilted are relatively decent to land as a solo. There will be a loot map that you can determine the relative loot densities, of course, but as a duo, the main splits that you should focus on would be sending one here, or sending one here, or one in each of these, or one in each of these. Each buildings these are the most stacked. However, since they're in the middle, they're also obviously the most vulnerable from pushes from every side. This area is the most protected because the basement of this building can be farmed out and replaced fairly quickly. You will see a pro player clicks to this very often. I'll show his Twitch on the screen or whatever. As for this drop, another pro player, Harpy. Both of these people have qualified for the Fortnite World Cup, so I feel that they are knowledgeable in how their drops work. I would highly recommend checking them out for extensive gameplay, since obviously I can't show you that. Either way, if as a solo, I'd recommend landing at this building because you have a few options. If you get a gun off of the tops, you can just air vent over to this person since they'll likely be breaking in here. This has happened to me when I was over here and it really pretty much killed me instantly, honestly. I don't like landing over here because I find that the mats you farm are pretty slow and it's too open as well, so I wouldn't recommend landing in this area unless you have to. Next, you gotta think that sometimes even if you land at the top, people will jump in through the window, so it's not guaranteed that you'll have your own building to yourself. You gotta improvise in that case and do your best. Also, many of the buildings in this area are hollow on the inside, so you can pretty easily turtle within them safely, I guess. And some of the doors I've noticed are different colors. I tried to figure out why, but the only discernible pattern I could tell was that green doors generally lead outside. The other two variations are black and blue. Blues commonly, I want to say, lead to like bathrooms, but it's not 100%, which I find a little bit odd. As for the pros and cons of this place, obviously there's insane loot being that it's tilted. There's 3 vending machines as well as like 40 chest spawns, and then whatever else. You can get max mats pretty much anywhere. You have to be careful where you farm though, because over time people will rotate into here since it's pretty much the center of the map, and the slipstreams are really essential for many players who need to rotate. So since Tilted doesn't have the most efficient map farm, since there's no like pallets or things of that nature, I'd recommend tunneling up on this, or boxing up I'd say, in this area underneath, as I mentioned previously, because you can see many times Clicks does this and he'll come out with pretty much max everything and then take a slipstream or come down here for extra loot. Either way though, this is probably the best building to farm. Next, there's many vehicles around. Vehicles are pretty good because even though they're not ballers, quads you can box up and you can use them for multiple zones, so you're not reliant entirely on slipstreams. If you have like a really far zone to like Paradise, then it's definitely way more viable to take a quad. Since slipstreams, you're going to have to get out eventually and start walking. You can also camp the slipstreams. Say you're over here and players are flying. It's pretty easy tags, okay? And then if you need to though, you can always use these. Like there's not many reasons not to, other than it being unsafe at times, but you can also just get out pretty conveniently, so it's not the worst method of transportation. As for the cons of fighting in this place, I don't like it too much because as soon as you're done with fighting one team, another team is just going to slipstream onto you, so it's really important that you are cognizant of how many duos land with you, so you know if you are going to even get third party. If you do decide to engage on the other team, who, let's say you guys land here and they land over here, then I'd recommend taking the slipstream and always trying to make sure you hold the top of the building. One of the tops of the buildings are pretty important because it's obviously natural high ground that will probably not get broken down. So you can just get a quick positional advantage based off of throwing the first punch, we'll say. The way I would recommend learning this place is to pick one building with which you want to become extremely familiar, and then learning the ins and outs of it so that whenever you have a fight you can try to bring it to that building and then outplay with the knowledge that you'll have more than the enemy, presumably. The biggest thing though is to pretty much master using these slipstreams, because the way that Tilted is now, there's a lot of open areas, and the inefficiency for farming mats makes it pretty difficult to cover yourself consistently if you're getting sprayed at by like a team positioned somewhere that can pressure you easily. So honestly, just use the slipstreams as much as you can to get the jump on opponents, and then from there I'll land a few AR tags and maybe go in based off of that. Well, that's pretty much it. I'll link the Twitches of the people who I named earlier in the description so that you can check out some gameplay, note how they take their fights and when they decide to. So that's it. Thanks for watching.